turn someone into the microphone instead. Anyway, I'm going to try not to forget everything at the last second. I got a bunch of stuff written down. I procrastinated on this very badly. That's a fault of mine, but let's hop right into it. Gosh. It's intimidating. Funny thing, it's more intimidating not hearing you guys because you don't get that immediate feedback. But anyway, I should probably make sure that the screen sharing is going to work on this because I do have plans. I promise you that. Let's see. 1080. Yeah, 1080 is good. All right. Y'all see that? The little PowerPoint, well, not PowerPoint, slides thing coming through. Wonderful. I'm going to be keeping looking over at you all so that I can make sure that, one, I'm not talking too fast, not talking too slow, not losing you. Because this is a practical guide to Inanimate TF. The esteemed Pinata before me went into a bunch of that. Admittedly, I wasn't listening too close because I was trying to put some finishing touches on this right until the bitter end. But, you know, it's fine. It'll be fine. If things go wrong, we're all capable of improvising. Anyhow, let's just hop right into it. Practical guide to Inanimate TF, or how to turn your friends into objects for fun and profit. But first, these are the disclaimers that I was going through. I kind of got excited and went into them a bit early. This is just how I do it. It's not the only way to do it. You might have a way that you like to do it, and that's perfectly fine. There's an infinitely many ways to do this, just as there are an infinitely many number of things that you could be turned into at a moment's notice. In case you couldn't tell, this is my first time giving a panel like this, unless you count stuff that I did in middle school, and even then, that was in person. I'm wearing a microphone now. Practically a professional. But yeah. If I'm going too fast, if I'm making a point that's not clear, if I gloss over something too quickly, just pop it in the text chat. I'm going to be looking over at you a lot. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask whenever. Although, if you think it might come up later, maybe hold on to it a little bit. I promise that I'm going to try to get to everything. And I have a few things planned to make sure that you're going to be able to figure everything out. Finally, please get a ref ready and follow along at home. I have plans. You can probably guess, but I'm not going to give it away. All right. So, what is this thing and why should I listen to it? Hello, I'm CrizBN. I have countless forms, but tonight I've decided to materialize in the form of a Rotom-Dex because it felt fitting. Chronic Shapeshifter, usually Pokemon. Sometimes an object. Anything could happen. Ace, hello. You can probably notice that. I am a hopeless procrastinator because whenever I have more than 3 things to do at once, I worry which one should I do first, panic, and then end up doing none. But here we are. Time has finally caught up with me. We're doing this anyway. Leaving this up here because there's a QR code on it. If you want to find me elsewhere, you know where to find me. I'm CrizBN everywhere. Okay, that's a mood. Whenever you don't hear something said out loud, you don't know how to say it. And there is, honestly, it's a word I made up, so all words are made up. And as you can tell, I am equal parts nervous and excited. Let's hop right into it if you're all ready to get started. Just a quick thing, the many flavors of inanimacy. I'm sort of putting this into the categories based on what you're going to need to worry about with the challenge of drawing each of these guys. CrizBN, that's one I've heard a lot. That's dangerous because you could turn into a trash can. Anyway, when it comes to the task of drawing, I like to split them up into these sort of mental categories. You've got anthropomorphic objects, the ones that already are kind of shaped like the thing that they're come from. You got statues, you got paintings, which is just flat things. Got certain toys, toys, plushes. They're just sort of like the base object wearing a different skin. I'm going to come into that later. We've got anthro-adjacent objects, which I'm calling, or that's what I call, hang on. Grounding myself. Too many CPU cycles. Okay. And that's stuff that is shaped like an anthro thing, but isn't. Like you got fursuits, mascots, and I popped clothing in there too, because it's again, it's shaped like the thing, but it's not the thing. Oh yeah. Object show characters. That's a that's a special love of mine. Something on the side. I've drawn a few of those, but I haven't posted much of it. Um, anyway, back on track. Non-anthro objects. I've put in the shape shifters in there, the ones that are just flattened or reshaped like clay, that type of thing. Got, your standard household appliances, food, all that. I put vehicles in its own category because those ones feel special to me. That might just be because I'm a car guy. I can't help but love vehicles, and of course you've seen my plain TFs. I forgot to put those in here. Again, you can tell I got a bit excited towards the end and put this off until the last minute. Something to fix next time. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Objects show characters. That is a specific trope. I don't have any pictures of it in here because I couldn't find ones that I was able to say, oh, is this a picture I can use? Is this a picture I can't use? I might pull it up real quick, but it's we'll come back to that if we have time. If you go into the inanimate and statues chats under the interests section, you'll find someone who's more than happy to explain to you what object characters are, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, I don't see vehicle TFs more that often. Probably because it's more interesting to do Anthrop, but okay. Gotta focus. And I'm out of order. But anyhow, let's hop right into it before I get too derailed. Brain TF. So, here's how I turn friends, customers, unaware bystanders, and myself into objects. It's a flexible and ever-changing process. I've put 5 steps on there, except they're not quite steps. You can look at those real quick, but I'll be going into them in that concept, construction, emotion, detail, and story. It's just how I decided to do it. And the reason that I'm talking so quickly and I'm a bit thing is these aren't exactly steps. What you might have hoped for is a nice, simple list of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. When in reality, my mental process looks like this. It's just a whole thing. Everything kind of happens at once. Some things happen more at some times than others. But in the end, if you try to keep yourself focused and on the whole rather than the individual things, Matto, you dork. God dang it, I love that. But yeah, if you just try to keep focused on the big picture rather than getting too caught up in any one of these things, then you'll probably do all right. You won't run into too many issues. But yeah, if you're not sure what you're doing, the big thing can be intimidating, which is why I like to break it down. So, part 0, concept. We're starting at 0 because that's how computers count. And because this is important, it's going to be in throughout the whole thing. You might have heard this in like writing classes and all this other stuff. If you've ever done standardized testing and had to write an essay, you got to plan up front so that you know where you're going. It's a bit silly, but it works very well. So you want to ask, first off, what's your scope? Do I want image, sequence, comic, whatever? Who are you making this for? Yourself? A friend? Are you going to tease someone mercilessly like Matto just did? You know, you're just going through all of the things that you need to do for your TF. Who's getting TF'd? Do you have a reference for them? Get a reference for them. What are you going to turn them into? You're going to need to find references for that too. Always work from references. Mic drop. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, let's see. These last ones, if you just want to do the TF for the sake of the TF, you don't need to worry too much about this. But it helps to know, like, what's the setting, what's the backdrop, just in case that's going to affect how the TF progresses. It could be like you want to have it. Okay, focus. I'm talking too fast, aren't I? Inanimate TF and my ADHD? It's more likely than you might think. Okay, focus. Right. Why is your TF happening? How is it going to happen? You just keep this stuff in mind and you keep going, keep going. You can just jump right into the sketch if you're just spinning around in circles. Oftentimes I find that while I'm sketching, the story just kind of reveals itself. Like, just sort of go with the flow, figure it out as you go along, as I'm doing with this presentation. But write down everything, because I know that I forget thoughts as often as they happen. If I don't write them down within 5 minutes, it's gonna be gone and in the wind like confetti. How are you all keeping up, by the way? Am I making any sense with this? Okay, great. So, here is where we get to the bulk of it. I call this bit construction. So, especially with inanimate TF, because the end form is often so different from the beginning form, even if you're planning on doing a mid TF picture, even if you don't think you're going to be doing an end TF, you need to think, well, what's the end result going to look like, so that you can understand what parts map to what and all these other things. And especially because these materials are so different from that of like a typical organic body. Oh, you're too kind, guys. Because the parts of an inanimate form are often so different from that of flesh and bone, you need to consider the materials, like how it's like, are they rigid? Do they flex? When you've got joints that move, how will the material bend? Can the material bend? Will you need to have robotic joints, like in this picture here? I thought, well, there's going to be metal parts. You can't have metal really bend, so you got separate parts. Specifically, when I make robotic type characters, I like to just sort of hand wave it, say, there's a metal portion for each bone, and then you get like a rubber gusset, and then you hide the joint in there. You don't need to worry about ball joints, hinge joints, and stuff like that, unless you're going really in depth, in which case, Godspeed, I applaud you. But when it comes to construction, I always like to start with the face, because that's what draws the most attention. And when in doubt, I'm going to search up just object transformation, object inanimate. Put that into like the Fur Affinity search bar, and you're going to find just countless examples that you can work from, modify, say, oh, I like how that guy did it. I like how that guy handled his face, but I like how that guy handled his arms. Put it together, you got synthesis, and you can make your own thing. Oh, yes. Sometimes the end form is a mid-TF. In this case, you could argue that this end form is a mid-TF. But yeah. But this is basically the same standard issue that you get for any TF. It's a problem that you get to solve, and you can solve it any way you like. There's no one right way to do it. So, let's focus on the face. Because the face is the thing that attracts the attention the most. It's where the emotion lives. The eyes are the gateway to the soul and all that. You don't have to keep the face in. I know that some people really like to delete the face, but it's still important to think, where would the face be, right? Because when you make an object TF, you want to translate the patterns, the designs of the initial character over to the final form. Let's see, laser pointer. Ah, I have this now. Great. But yeah, you can see that in this specific one, you've translated some of the design features of the character to different parts of the vehicle. This one I just put a tail on for fun. And that's the thing, you could just do things for fun. You don't have to be like 100% realistic. The reason I have two cars here is because I want to emphasize there is no one right solution. When you're trying to put a face on things, oftentimes you'll find that there's a bit that already looks like a face. Cars often have front ends that are designed to look like faces because subconsciously people like to see faces on things. When you walk out to your car in the morning, yeah, it's kind of fun to say, it's smiling at me. And you can actually draw it so that it literally is smiling at you. It's literally your friend. Anyway, so why would you choose one over the other? Just your particular preferences. Some people like the headlights as eyes style because that's just what they're used to. That's what they see. Pixar, when they did the movie Cars, decided to put the eyes on the windshield because the lead designer of the movie, if I'm remembering correctly, thought that putting the eyes on the headlights made the car feel kind of like a snake, like a lizard, because you've got the head at the end, everything at the other end. When you put the eyes on the windshield, it makes the face bigger, more emotive. You get to play around with it more. Again, it just depends on what your needs. Can't find a place to put the face? Well, have you looked for parts that are already called like heads, faces, like a screw head, clock face, all these other things? I should have put my clock picture in there. Um, if you if your device, if the thing that you're going to be turning your friend into or yourself into, if it has a screen, well, you're golden. Just put the face there. Although sometimes you might want to use that to display other things, which can make a fun situation where, say, the face goes missing when the device is used, and that gets into sort of like the old story portions of the TF. And you can see, again, these aren't steps, these are parts, and all the parts can happen at once sometime. While we're in the construction, we're coming back to concept, we're coming into detail, we've got all these things. Yes, train mascots do look like little worms. I love them. I keep meaning to do that, but then I keep putting it off because I have 10 million things to do. But yeah, sometimes there's not an obvious place to put in the face. When in doubt, just put the face wherever feels right. Follow your gut. And part of the sketching process is experimentation. So, experiment, make mistakes, get messy, have all this fun. All right, let's move on. So once you've got the face placed, you can think, well, what are the other body parts? And Matto, literally screw you. See? Anyway, this is where we're going to come back to your concept / story. You want to think, what are the bits that are the most important for the kind of TF that I want to do? And make sure that you've got parallels for those bits. Some parts of the final object can play double duty, like, maybe you need an arm, but maybe you want a tail. Well, cables can play both parts. They can be prehensile, wrap around, pick stuff up. And, if you really want hands and there's just no hands on the thing, just hands, who cares? Just have fun with it. Just embrace the idea that things are going to go a bit crazy. You're turning into an object. There are no rules. Oh, yes, that's a very good example. XJP, you've got a good example there. See how if you look in the chat there, you can see how his design translates. He put the pants on the back, like the tail. Another way that you can do that is, specifically with planes, you can translate the legs to the landing gear. He's translated the arms to the wings, which is honestly very common, very fair. Sometimes you can translate the tail to the tail. It's like you can just play with it. I appreciate you changing your icon to match the truth, Matto. Yes, that's a good point. Keep rules in mind so that you can break them with purpose. Again, this is my first time giving this. I'm going to look back on the recording at this later, cringe a bit, and then take notes. Refine this, and then maybe next year it'll be even better. I'll probably have more examples and stuff. Let's see how we're doing on time. 20 minutes. Pretty good. All right. So here's a bit of practical advice. What's a great way to practice? Draw overs. Take a picture of an object in your house, just that you encounter on the street, whatever you like. It can be a car, can be a suitcase, can be a speaker, can be anything you like, and just draw over it. It's a great way to practice all sorts of skills, specifically in this case post-TF, but you can also, if you're adding extra props, if you're drawing on the face, you need to make sure the perspective's right. If you're going in a bit advanced, once you color it in, you can play around with shading, make sure that your shading matches. All these other things. Add in new shadows, add in new bits, all these other things. You'll get to learn a bit more about the photo manipulation elements of your program. With this one, if I remember right, hang on, let me open it up on my second device here if I have it. I used some color adjustment layers to, you see those yellow splotches? Those weren't there on that suitcase at the start of this. I added those in because those are elements of the of the persona of the person I was mercilessly teasing in this portion. And, you know, this tease took less than an hour. So if a friend shows off, hey, I just got this new suitcase. If you're quick on your feet and just sort of embrace the idea, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough. You can pop back within 30 minutes and say, surprise, you're the suitcase. And much merriment and laughter is had. And you've made some good practice and teased a friend at the same time, which is, win-win. Okay, if I'm the first device, this computer's the second device, that's the third device, and Matto, you're probably going to be the fourth device. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, part of the fun of having no rules is knowing that there were rules that you threw out the window. Anyhow, let's move on. So I'm glossing over this bit a bit because once you've gotten your parallels in, once you know which part maps to where, that kind of gives you sort of a map of how you can explore the mid-TF space. And it turns into just the same old problem of, well, how do I want to do the mid-TF? Do I want to change one body part at a time? Do you want to, have a hand suddenly turn into a tire, and then another one? Oh no, the face is stretching out into the hood, that type of thing. I'm going to address that in a second. Or do you want the whole thing to just sort of shift all at once smoothly like an Animorphs cover? Oh, an Animorphs cover. And you can also think, how do I want to handle the mid-TF in relations to the story that I want to tell, the concept that I've gone for? Do I want it to happen quickly? Do I want it to happen slowly? Because, gosh, imagine the inconvenience of turning into a car over the course of, say, a week. It's like, bro, I can't even drive. My hands are tires, but they do nothing. That type of thing. Oh, yes. I need to dabble more with animation. And now, those assembly lines, I love that concept because I am an engineer at heart. I've actually got an engineering degree, funnily enough. But that's something that's going to come up in the details section. But yeah, again, that's sort of like with the assembly line thing. Again, you're asking, does it attack? Is it a different part of the process? Does it change the shape first and then change the texture, repaint, or does it attach a body part, remove a body part, change the shape? Again, it's sort of like a different sort of staging or wrapping for the process that you want to do, except it's instead of being done by a magical force or a medicine or something like that, now it can be done by those hands on little long arms. But yeah, anyhow, how am I doing? Ready to move on, or would you like to? Do you have any more questions? We're doing good on time, I think. We're going to have some good time for the interactive portion of this. And I hope you've all got your refs ready, because that's going to be fun. Anyhow, you're starting to run into the bit where I started to run out of time because I'm a hopeless procrastinator and I'm thinking, oh, it's version 1, I'm not going to get it right anyway. We're going to figure this out together, guys. Guys, gals, its and bits. Um, so, emotion. It's the same old stuff that you're used to drawing in your other pictures, but also not because you've got restrictions. Because when you're dealing with inanimate TF, sometimes you got a drawn on smile. Sometimes you don't have any face at all. Everything can be sort of locked in. So if you've just got the mouth and that's stuck, well, you've got to really focus on how to emote with the eyes. You see, that interactive part, that's a secret tool that we're going to use later. But yeah, when it comes to emoting without a mouth, you got to focus on the eyes, and that's going to be you really focusing on what can you achieve by moving the brows around, changing the shape of the eye, or doing wacky stuff with the pupils. Different size pupils, that's a good way to make them look like they're discombobulated, which is one of my favorite post-TF tropes, where they're just like, what the heck just happened? Why do I got this on me now? Um, Now, if you don't have a face, And even if you do, these are useful things to add on. Expression marks. The term for the anime version of this is manpu. I'm probably mispronouncing that because I am, as you can tell, not Japanese. But adding these little guys here, they're a good way to, if you don't have a face to play with, or even if you do, to add the emotion that you need. It's a pretty common thing. If you just take an object and then put sweat drops and a blush on it, oh hey, that's a post TF. And again, that's a nice little trick. You can take any form and turn it into post TF by just adding shreds of clothing, a bit of clothing confetti, add on the blush, add on the right expression, and add on the sweat drops, and bam, you've got a post TF. You don't even need to. If you're struggling with mid TF and you just want to get stuff out, just do a post TF and work from there. Yes, discombobulate. Okay, how are we doing, guys? Am I talking too fast? Because I got a bit excited there. All right. There will be a question time at the. I'll stop for questions again at the end of the next step. Okay, so when it comes to posing, you see that line of action. It's got like animal characters. How can we apply this to objects? You can bend objects a bit. You know, if you take a box, you do all these other stuff. You know, it doesn't matter what the shape of the body is, but you got to make sure that it emotes properly. I don't have good examples of this, but I'm going to make some good examples of this in the interactive section. Don't you worry about it. For a good example of working within the constraints of, say, a restrictive media, you can look at the Lego movie. The way that they sort of made little Lego guys emote, just like the old-fashioned stop-motion animation pictures. That's a great example of how you can still embrace the sort of cartoonish emotions that you can get away with showing just through the body pose, not even the facial expression. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can one of you turn into a train real quick? I need a new train of thought. Anyway, when you start giving the item a bit of a curve rather than making it exactly rigid as to what the object is in real life, that's when you start to get the liveliness back. Because just because you're inanimate doesn't mean you're alive. I probably said that wrong, but I'll get that right in the YouTube script. Whatever. All right, let's move on before I get too lost. Here's a little trick that I like to use. Once I've got a bit of a line of action in there, if I'm struggling, what am I going to put in the background? Just make an abstract shape that accentuates the line of action, and hey, it works. It keeps the picture all put together, makes it a cohesive whole, and if you put a solid color in there, you can put a bunch of little symbols in there to give it a bit more variety, keep it interesting. Oh yeah, I'm glad you guys liked that one. That was another tease, but that tease that I was paid for, which is excellent. Y'all really gotta. It's like it's so intimidating to do a commission, but it's also so rewarding because that's outside of the scope of this. I shouldn't get too into that, but yeah. If you're struggling for a background, just put an abstract shape in there that accentuates the line of action, and it fits. Yeah, I'm basically a mercenary. At Morden, I am essentially a mercenary that swoops in, turns you and your friends into silly things, and then swoops out. It's like, I'll come back next week when you have the next payment. Heck yeah, let him know. Let him know. All right, let's move on to part 3. Detail. This is the bit where you really sort of wanted to get out that analytical mind. This bit has been a bit truncated because, again, I ran a bit low on time, and I want to make sure that I've got time for the interactive section. So I'm just going to give a practical example. Toys. A personal favorite of mine. As anyone who's seen my galleries on FA can know. Oh, and by the way, I have divided them up into folders for easy use. I've got an inanimate folder. I've also got a plushes and other toys folder. I've also got think what did I call it? Shines and other squeaks. That's pool toys. Anyway, so when you're doing plushes and pool toys and other toys, you're thinking, well, where do I put the seams, right? And part of that is, you put the seams down the middle of the face, and it really accentuates that. But for the rest of the body, sometimes you want to think, well, what's a realistic sort of sewing pattern going to look? And you just keep in mind that for plushes, how does fabric come? It comes flat, right? So you need to think, how would I put flat sheets onto this three-dimensional shape to make it, fit correctly? And that's where you think you're going to put your seams. One trick that I like to use for, like, say, ears or other round bits is think, well, there's going to be at least one sheet, but normally two, because what you can do for that, you commonly find, is that you got like the top half of the arm and the bottom half of the arm, and you can sew that together in a sewing machine, which is what you'll commonly find. Again, I should get more of these plushies so that I can figure out if I'm actually talking correctly or if I'm just talking out of my ass. Sorry. Yes, sewing patterns. Look up sewing patterns for inspiration. That's such a great idea, VP. Yes. Oh, that plushify. I need to save that one moment. I am so glad that I have you guys here. All right. Anyway, let's move on a bit from just the seams. I like to put patches on my plushes and also pool toys. Like, say, if a character has a scar on them, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to treat that scar like it was a tear in the fabric, and you had to sew it up. Sometimes you're going to put a patch over it. Sometimes it's just sewn up. Again, it's like, how can I translate these little details from the beginning form to the end form? Thank you. Something that I like to do is the tag. I always like to put a character detail in there. Or if I'm making a pool toy, I like to put on like those California compliant warning labels. Oh man, that really accentuates, for some people, that's the thing that really tickles them to saying, oh, I'm an object and I am legal in the state of California. Not to be used as a flotation device. That type of thing. All right. The reason I picked this picture is because it has something that I don't see too often, because, plushes and pool toys are the ones that are soft, huggable. Action figures aren't. Action figures, other plastic toys, the sort of thing that you get in a Happy Meal, those guys aren't as huggable, so they don't get as much love. Yeah. This object is known to cause spontaneous tail growing, and the state of California would like to warn you about it. Anyhow, so in this case, one thing that I put on Xylon in this case is, you see these little seams here? That's my attempt to imply that it's a plastic injection molded part. Now, plastic injection molding, this is why it pays to think like an engineer. Think about how the object is made. The way that most plastic objects are made today, you inject plastic into a mold, two molds, two-part molds, and you'll find a parting line where the two molds meet. Even Lego has a parting line, but they're really clever about it. The way that Lego puts the parting line, they put it at the bottom of the brick, so it's invisible. It's clever. But yeah, if you put the little seams on, that does double duty of giving the feel of the contour, accentuating the 3D shape, but also giving the feeling, oh, this was a plastic injection molded part. This is a piece that was actually made, even though it wasn't. Or, if I were to zoom in here, sometimes I treat it like it's two different pieces that were put together. There's so many different ways to think about it. And then you think about all of the other little mechanical details. A battery compartment, little light filament. Again, think about, if I were making this as an actual toy, what parts would I need? Should I put a speaker grill in the chest? Because there's not space for it in the head. The kid's probably going to bite the head. It's like, put it in the chest. The chest's much more durable. Oh, Matto, that's genius. We'll have to try that later. Anyway, one final detail. This is just how I like to do the seams on like plushes and pool toys. With plushes, I like to make sure that I like to put in a few like visual stitches. Don't put every stitch. It's sort of like if you're trying to draw hair and you draw every hair, it gets too busy. Just put a few to get the idea across. You can see in this one I did two types, one where there's fabric getting attached to other fabric, and one where it's a stitch for the sake of decoration, and you can see that's just like a simple over-under stitch. With a pool toy, I like to sort of do this sort of broken seam, because that implies the material of it. It's not quite fabric, it's vinyl, or latex, I forget what exactly it is, but it's like, it goes differently, it creases up in a different way. And breaking up the seam like that is a quick and easy way to get across that sort of seam crinkling. Anyhow, let's move on. So, part 4, story. Yeah, this is just concept again. The 2-bit register, that's overflowed, and we're back at 0 again. That's a computer joke because I went with the computer form for tonight. But yeah, once you've got your image all done, that doesn't mean that the fun is over. Look back at that little paper that you wrote down all your ideas on, and start writing up the story after, start writing up the description. All of you who look at my art, you know that I like to put little extra stories in the description, and that's sort of like, I think of that as the aftercare of the image, where you got to put it all up in a little nice bow and get it all looking nice. With the story afterwards, what I like to do, one way to think about it is what's coming next, what are the consequences, or what led up to it, how can I notch that in the description. One of my favorite things, why I always like to have two characters in there. Oftentimes it's just myself putting myself in because I'm a sucker for TF. What can I say? You you like have them play off of each other, teasing each other, back and forth dialogue, and sometimes maybe they do turn back. Are there lingering effects, like consequences of getting messed with in your form? One idea that I've been meaning to try for a while is, oh no, it's like took the arm off a toy, put it on a different arm on, and then you turn back. It's like I have a gorilla arm now. What the heck, But that's a concept for later. So, gonna check in with you all again. Any pressing questions? How are we doing? Was there anything that I sort of glossed over a bit? Yep, I'm glad you noticed, Madam. Yeah, so how are y'all doing? Any questions? I'll give you a few minutes. Also, definitely get your refs ready now. I've got 10 minutes I've got 20 to 10 minutes to play with, although I might be able to stretch that into 30 if I play around with definitions a bit. I am going to be switching devices after this one. Oh yeah, reference sheets. Yeah, because best way to show between fully animate and sentient inanimate. I'm going to demonstrate that in the next section. But yeah, anyhow, part 5, we're doing a practical demonstration. You're next. Surprise! I've got some time to play with, and I've got some improvisation to do, so I'm going to switch devices real quick. Start putting your glyphs in the chat. I'm going to pick them at random. I'm going to switch devices. Oh, by the way, if you pop your ref in, I'm going to let someone else pick what you turn into. Just a heads up. All right. I'm certainly not going to be able to get to all of you. I am so sorry. But let's real quickly. Yeah, I wish I had time to get to all of you, but also I have got so much to do. Anyway, let's switch devices here. I'm gonna briefly hope this doesn't cause problems, but let's see. All right, am I coming through okay? The microphone quality will have dipped because I have switched to my drawing device. But okay, good, great. Let's bring Frida. All right. In addition to all of these refs that you've all been sharing, I would like to ask people to start describing random objects. Matto, that is not your ref, but I admire the confidence. Really? It's deeper now. Interesting. All right. Let's just go through it. All right. Get the list down. Move this over so that I can track everything. I'm going to be focusing more on objects because I can do those quicker, but let's see.
Let's write them down. Let's write down forms. Fan, lamp, chair, clock. Just writing these down, and then I'll look through the controller. Yeah, that's a good one. Under console, light / torch. All right, that's probably more than enough for now. Okay, I'll put mouse and phone in there because those are favorites. All right. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go from the top. Right. So let's see. It was a ceiling fan for that one, right? So let's see. Right. I am going to have trouble following the chat. Wait, which one was yours? All right. Whatever. I am going to have trouble following the chat because when I get to drawing, I start to get lost in the sauce. So, uh-oh, I just got pinged. Hang on, let me make sure it's nothing too problematic. "15-minute warning to the ones pinged." Oh boy, here we go. All right, I've got 15 minutes to play with. All right, so although because this started a bit late, I think I've got a bit of extra time, so let's just go for it. So a ceiling fan, probably, well, I've got one behind me, so I don't need to pull up a reference for that. The typical ceiling fan has the hub there. Let's see. Where would I put the face on this? Well, the hub's probably the best option because you don't want to put it on one of the blades. You always want to have the head in a central location. Now the question is, do you want them facing down or facing out? In this case, I'm going to go with the same way that I did on a Roomba and have it facing out. So I'm going to make that just a bit lopsided in this direction. Let's check back on the chat. It's okay. I am probably only going to get to a few. No. Right. So let's just pop some ears on for fun. Again, just sort of spitballing here. Right. Let's draw on the eyes. Those look to be blue. Normally, I would put the ref on here, but I'm sort of low on time, so I'm going to default to surprise because that's just a safe bet with all of these. And I am rushing because I'd like to try to get to as many of you as possible. Right. Now, what am I going to do with that jacket there? Well, let's make it into a decorative fringe. Nope, that's the wrong shade of blue. Decorative fringe. And let's see. One cable comes down the middle. Let's make that the tail. So that'll be like the tail. So just keep that. Tail charm, and then most lamps, most of these guys have also a. Let's not. Yeah, I can put in some lights. Why not? That'll be one of the spikes. And the other two spikes will be the lights. No, no, the lights will be the aura dangly bits. Right, there we go. Because ceiling fans have lights, and of course, the blades. Those will be in the style of the arms. putting that on a separate layer. So congratulations, you've grown a third arm. Aren't you happy? Right. Oh, that's one. Oh, I just realized. There's a pun to be made there. That was purely by accident, but I'm going to embrace it. All right. Good point. Both the arms and the legs could be blades. All right. So let's pick another one semi at random. All right. You know what? I'll just go down the list in order. All right. Well, that's that. Looks like this next one gets to be a lava lamp. Isn't that fun? All right. So looks like they're pretty monochromatic, but that's okay because you can play around with value on that. Or I think it's value. Value is the one that means light and dark, right? I'm probably close enough at least. Give them a base. Got that one lighter foot, so let's make a nod to that with that one. Use the transform tool to sort of fix my wonkiness. Okay. Let's make the glass more obvious by giving it a completely different shade. Again, I'm kind of rushing here, but you know. So again, I've put the ears on there. You could probably leave those off depending on how you want to do it. In this case, because it's, again, I'm rushing, I haven't really thought about the pose very much. So in this case, I'm going to let the sort of emotion marks do a lot of the heavy lifting here. So again, I'm going to reuse this trick that I saw on that I used on my other lava lamp and also saw from covers of Inanimate. We are going to make a face out of the lava lamp elements. You know, the little globules. Let's see. All right, so let's make sure I'm not mirrored. Good. So it's a really psychedelic thingy. So this is one where the emotion. You know what? I can play around with that. There you go. Give it a little bit of a curve so it looks like, oh no, they're looking a bit dazed. So put one eye here. Make the other eye a different shape to accentuate sort of like the bamboozledness. Put one eyebrow. And another one. Yeah, you see, you've got sort of a awkward expression. The fun thing with these lava lamps is that you can go wild with the expression thanks to that. And I'm going to make this one sort of like a brighter version of the body color. And just sort of put in the other ones and maybe a mouth. And the other one's in faintly. So you can see, there you go. Play around with the face. Yeah, lava lamp face is just one of those things that I'm happy I accidentally stumbled upon and borrowed. It's like you get to play and make a face just so incredibly abstract. It's delicious, basically. Anyway. There we go. All right, so we're moving on. Wait, how am I doing on time? Surprisingly well. A chair. Who gets to be a chair next? Well, Zeta, I do have a thing planned with you, don't I? Who cares? I'm overdue on your thing anyway. Did warn you to have your refs ready. All right. You have clothing. Awesome. So, again, I'm in a rush. So, again, here's another old trick. I'm in a rush. Oh my gosh, I need to do a post TF quickly, but So, what's the best way to make a post TF? Well, start with the chair. Nope, let's use that way. Start with the chair. Let's see. Square chair is easier. Actually, let's try to apply the line of action here a bit. Let's have him be looking at himself a bit. Where would I put the face? On the back of the chair. Because it feels right to have the face on the back of the chair. Just going with my gut feeling here. Well, let's put one leg splayed out here. Let's see, what would the belly look like? Oh, you know what? I know what I can do. I can incorporate the shirt into the cushion of the chair because the cushion of the chair would have some fabric on it. And, well, where's some fabric material going to come from? The shirt. There you go. But where are we going to get our clothing confetti from? Well, chairs don't need pants. So we'll do the clothing confetti after. But let's see. There we go. One little thing that I find implies shockness or like unsteadiness is when the knees bend together, or in this case, the chair legs. Sort of goes like, "What the heck is happening? I have been bamboozled. I have been discombobulated. I have no idea what's happening." That's what I'm trying to get across here. The paw pads seem to be great. Seem to be thingy there, so I'm going to make those the sort of chair little plastic nub things that you see on chairs a lot, so that they don't scratch up your floor. There you go. Let's put the chair back, just a solid back, because that's the simplest thing to draw, and it gives me a solid base for the face. Draw a center line so that I can place the eyes. And let's keep it simple. Do it in the perspective. Go like. Let's put in some of those shocked expressions. Let's see, what was it? Oh no. He's got ears. Let's put on the ears. Except because, surprise, they're going to be pointing right up. What do y'all think? Mouth, no mouth? No mouth, yeah. Let's focus on making those eyes extra surprise. So let's make them a bit bigger, a bit rounder, to imply that they've been like make the eyes rounder, make the pupils smaller. Add in these lines on the other side of the face to emphasize the movement. I will add in the nose since that feels important to me. And add in the face design. Let's see. There's a bit of a brown element there that goes up from the nose to the eyes, like that. A bit of a thingy above the eyes and goes like that. And a bit of a brown fringe there at the edges. Well, and just for fun. Tail. Because I want a tail. Who doesn't want a tail? And to emphasize the post-TF nature, just add that little spice of clothing confetti. It makes anything a post-TF. You don't even... There you go. See? It's... Okay, that is probably super rough. That is rough. It's clear that I rushed that one, but let's see if I can't save it a bit. Yeah, the cushion seems too big, so let's smallify the cushion. Yeah, that one's a bit messy. I will admit to that. That one's messy. But that honestly Seda sounds like it would be an IKEA furniture name. Yeah, Seda sound it's like yeah, that's straight up that is straight up an IKEA furniture name. Okay, backstage is pinging me again. Let's see how much time I can get away with. I am being told to wrap up soon. I think I've got time for one, maybe two more. But also, I don't think Bash would be too fussed if I went a little bit over. But I do at least want to get one more in. All right, let's see how we're doing. Huh. All right, I am hearing from the chair. All right, I'm asked him for 10. I might get 5. We'll see how it goes. Okay, 10. We've got 10 minutes. We've got 10 minutes to play with. Hey, another chair. Oh no, I use my voice all the time. All right, so let's cross that off the list. Up next is a clock. Oh, that's too perfect. We've got a bird for the clock. Okay, so the funny thing would be to make a cuckoo clock, but also that's just sort of like making a bird a bird. So I'm gonna go for like the Blue's Clue style clock. Let's see, what would the frame color be? Light blue, bit of green. All right. Yeah, I remember Matto did a pretty amusing April Fool's TF where he just TFs into himself. He does all the framing, but it's like at the end of it, it's like, I'm going to go for okay. Start with a circle. Let's say we're going for you surprised yourself with your own bell. That's a good one. Okay. Be kind of like this. Draw in the eyes. The purple, so. Right. Beak colors, I'm going to translate that to the arrow, to the hands of the clock. Oh, actually, no. Hands of the clock. Wings, obviously. Foolish. Right. And there is a bit of a color fringe. So we said that we were going to base them off the wings, so the pointer bit has the outside bit of the wing. There we go. The inside of the clock face will, in fact, have the body. Yeah, the shell is the body. There we go. A bit of purple. Yeah, this might be the last one. That perspective is a bit off, so I'm gonna. And use the transform tool. This is an advantage of doing digital. If you screw bits up, you can just sort of pick individual pieces and move them around. Right. I like to put different bits on different layers as I do it. Keeps things simpler. Because when you put things on different layers, you can see move it around independently or together. Anyway, so a clock has feet, bird has feet, perfect. There's your synergy. So let's try to make it look like they're jumping. Yeah, see, legs splayed out, makes it look like they're not supporting themselves. That is the wrong shade, unfortunately. Hang on. I'm going to lock the alpha on that. And I can put in the shade here. Go like this. Yeah, see? Now that's the right shade of pink. Right. The tail will be the little wind-up bit on the clock, because that sticks out on the back like a tail. Right. Also, I apologize. I am not keeping up with the chat right now. Let's see. Yes, object shows are a great source for ideas. I might do a little diversion and share one of my object show characters afterwards in the chat. Because it's like my friend did an object show thing. I'm like, hey, that sounds fun. I'm going to make up my own thing. It's like a imaginary music version of the smallest dictation machine ever made. So there you go. There's the wind-up bit of the clock, because that sticks out like a tail. Now, here's the awkward bit. What are we going to make the bell out of? Well, the bell makes noise. The beak makes noise. Let's make the bells the color of the beak. And the beak has two colors, so we're going to have bells of two colors. Yeah, see the tip. Oh, no, actually. Hey, that could work. Two-tone bell, like the beak. Except you've got two, so you've got two beaks now. Look at that. There you go. And the other one, we get to see the underside of it. Let's do the noise lines, as you might get. Except, no. Ringing bell is a bit more. Yeah, it's more like it. And we just need a striker between them. Well, let's give that the color of the limbs as well. And let's add on a mouth because it makes the thing just that little bit more expressive. And finally, the details of the clock elements. 1, 2, 3. There's 12, so start with the 4 corners and then add 2 in each quadrant. There you go. You have all 12. There's your homely alarm clock. Yeah, merch drop. That's a fun way to look at it. I'm turning you all into your own merch. Aren't you excited? All right, I've got one more, and then we're going to have to call it. Because I promised Bash that I'd get off at the 10-minute mark. So this will be the last one. But I'll be back again sometime. All right. Oh, I'm going with a shocking one. He has a built-in design on his hoodie, and he has brightly colored eyes. That's going to help make for a... So, oh, he's going to look like a freaking third-party controller, freaking Mad Catz controller. Let's grab Mad Catz controller. I'm looking up for a little ref. Let's look for the loudest one. Yeah, that'll do. So, this is one that I can't visualize in my head right away, so I'm going to follow my own advice and grab a ref. There you go. One of these fellas. So let's go. Let's hop right to it. Let's draw the shape first, and then we'll figure out the pattern later. Well, actually, no. Let's figure out the pattern together. Where would the face go? Face feels like it could be that symbol there in the middle. Hands could be the bits where the hands go. Where the pants go, we're turning that into confetti, my friend. Cable, that could be an arm too. Bandana always stays on, so I'm going to make that a warning label on the cable. And, well, let's go for it. I'm going to borrow the color of the hoodie for the color of the controller body. Let's see. Am I coming through okay, by the way? Okay. Well, whatever. Actually, merge in those boots, make them the grips. Because controllers sometimes have additional grips. So that is not tall enough, so I'm going to move that down, and connect them a bit. Again, I've got my keyboard. I got my keyboard shortcuts set up here so that I can be pretty good at it. Right. So eyes are green and red. That's a strong color. You need to be very careful with that. That can clash a bit. Just a warning. Anyway. Oh dear, I've done this on the same layer. Whoopsie. That is a mistake. Whoopsie. Hang on, I can fix that. 1 second. You see, this is the danger of working with layers, is that you can get them all turned around. Turn that into its own layer. Stretch a bit. And let's see. Bottom. Design. So the sticks will inherit the design of that as well. One stick. I'm going to make this a really ugly PlayStation controller instead so that I can, because it's quicker to draw a circle. I'm going to make the eyes just straight red instead. Yeah, that'll work. Although, yeah, okay. The face buttons. Do I have extra colors there? Oh, yeah, there's a purple element to the hood, so we can put purple elements to the face buttons. Oh man, there is a D-pad in there anyway. Although I can make that another circle. Let's borrow the pants color for that. Again, we're just spitballing here. I am rushing. Oh boy, I gotta cancel this now. Alright, so put in a really quick cable. And the thing, I am going to need to say goodbye now. So, it's going to put on his warning label, and I'm going to post this in there once I'm done. There you go. I'll put on the label after. Anyway, so that is time for me to say goodbye and hand the stage back to Bash. That is my bad for going over time, guys. All right. So, thanks a bunch. Sorry I didn't get to everyone, but there are a lot of you.
Don't worry, you can even finish that up if you want. Don't
yeah,
worry.
sure. Why not?
Yeah, just finish that up, and then we'll end it naturally. We don't want to rush you.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's turn that from a tie into a proper warning label. Let's put a barcode on it. There we go. It's your barcode tag, and let's use this as an extra appendage to be like, what the heck is going on here? And go like, whoa, there you go. Yeah, that'll probably work, and let's make sure to label them properly. Oh, I know what to do. XX underscore. Ooh. 01 underscore XXX. There you go. Pro Gamer Controller. Because you got to have the right gamer tag to game, don't you? Okay. I'll just get that all arranged, laid out. And yeah, that's me saying goodbye now after that sort of mad dash of turning a bunch of you into objects. I shall post this in the thing after I hand it over. Thanks a bunch for sticking with me to the bitter end and all that. And I should probably hand this back over to the esteemed chair.
Am I able to TF back into human form? Or am I
I make
still
no
stuck in the
promises.
chair? Well, you have to get off me first.
I make no promises. You can. I'll just stick a microphone down there.
I just do a panel on top of you while you're sitting on me. Okay.
All right. Have fun.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. Do I hit leave the stage or hang up?
You just hang up.
Okay. Bye bye. Thanks very much.